to do with what cuts do we feel, the legislature feel, need to be made in K through 12 budgets. And gosh, I'm trying to figure out if I can put this all together and you can talk about it as a composite. In particular, if the state sets, takes control of a number of things, including the benefits package for teachers, or specifics of what requirements there are in the schools, what does that do for local control? Is it possible that local school boards could be doing a better job of the setting up the benefits packages and the requirements? So I think we've got a big question here about what is the role of the state versus what is the role of the local community in K through 12 education. So if we could have anyone who wants to come forward, speak to education, which is clearly a very large part of our state budget. What ideas do you have on reducing cost, introducing competition, and how do we balance between local control and state control? Gentlemen, you have it? All right. Ron Cenkush.
One of the things I'd like to say about that is that when I went looking into the school choice issue that I spoke about earlier, I called one of my friends who sends their children to what happens to be a Catholic school here in South Bend. And one of them is entering high school, and I asked, how much do you spend for tuition there? They're going to Marion High School. $6,500 was the answer. I believe $9,300 or $9,600, anybody help me here? Mr. Zakas, is that about right? Is what we're spending for a public education. It's about 11,000 in South Bend. Okay. So the Catholic organization found a way to do it on about half. Yeah, that's a stark contrast, and it leads me to believe there must be a way to do it a little more efficiently, somehow, some way, somewhere. In addition to that, I think we may be in several categories of education being upstaged by several third world countries who probably teach in huts with chalkboards or perhaps in the dirt. I don't know, but money cannot be the only solution for good education. And I think the family unit has a lot to do with it as well. I think it kind of dovetails into some of the other candidates said here. You know, I think good families produce better students. I'm not sure how we really fix that with legislation. It's very difficult to do, and especially in a free society. But it would be my hope that we could find better solutions and find a way to make our schools more competitive.
All right. Senator Zakas.
I think as a state, we have a duty and a responsibility under the Constitution to provide a good, sound public education for our students. One of the things that I think we need to do, among other things, is to try to get more dollars, tax dollars, into the classroom. Right now, there's a smaller percentage than the national average of our cost per pupil that goes into the classroom for teachers and materials. And if we can increase that some way or other, look for different ways of doing that, then I think that would help the state of Indiana in public education.
Senator Zakas. Timothy Wesco.
I think oftentimes when you look at the legislature, we don't realize how many issues that we have to face, and there are thousands. And something that I believe is important is that you have principles that you apply to those issues, and you go from there as you deal with each one as they come along. Some of my principles when it comes to education are, first of all, you do what's best for the child. At the end of the day, how can we make sure each individual child gets the best education they possibly can get? If that means we have charter schools, if that means we infuse competition in the system, then so be it, so long as the children get the best education possible. And I think there are many ways in the state that we can continue to do that. We need more charter schools in the state. I come from a background of being a homeschool student. That does not mean mean that I oppose all public education. There's a need for it. As Senator Zakas said, it is part of our Constitution. To continue to be a self-governing nation and state, we must educate our youth, and that's what the public education system is there for. But I stand to defend the rights of parents to choose wherever they educate their children. The other issue that I want to address real quick, and I'll leave time for the other candidates, is equitable funding. I come from a rural district. My school districts get less money for their general funds and budgets per student than other school districts. As a matter of fact, almost half. What we have going on is some of these are some of the best schools in this area. The John Glenn School Corporation, the Penn Harris Madison. We just had an elementary school that's rated one of the best in the nation. The schools that seem to do the most exceptionally and best get rewarded with less money. And the schools that do the worst get rewarded with more money. And it's not solving their problems. It goes back to what Ron said, throwing money certainly does not solve the issue. But that's something that I stand to defend for my district. So there needs to be equitable funding for education. Thank you.
Timothy Wesco. Duane Beals.
We need to begin with an understanding of what the whole purpose of education is. Children belong to their parents and ultimately to God, and the responsibility for looking after them belongs to their parents. Every parent or group of parents cannot educate all of their children. They get together, they form an association, and the model's the old days in the West with a school marm that's hired by the local board to come in and teach the kids. The school then has a responsibility to teach and uphold the values of the parents who are responsible for the education. In a constitutional republic, the purpose of education is to have an informed electorate. The way that the liberals take care of all the ills in our culture is to add another course to the curriculum or throw some more money at it. The reason the city schools get more money is because they're failing schools. When a school fails, the liberals say we'll throw more money at it, therefore it'll get better. The more money they throw, the worse it gets. School choice is important. Parents should be involved in the education of their children, and we need a system that upholds the values of the parents in the community, does not teach against them so that children are pitted against their own parents. It's a matter of value, it's a matter of morals, it's a matter of ultimate responsibility for children.
Jarvis.
I largely agree with a lot of the comments that have been made. One of the things I wanted to add was the idea of merit pay for teachers, which I strongly believe in. And I think that can be implemented and it can save us not just money, but it can make for better education for our students. Also, one other note I would like to add is that we can look to the District of Columbia actually for reform on public education. They've done a very good job of taking failing schools to task. And it's another example of how small government solutions can benefit the society and can also help the budgets of the state. So again, that's an idea of taking failing schools to task, cutting budgets instead of just throwing money at the problem. So.
I agree with a lot that's been said about the money and stuff. We can't throw more money at the problem. That's not it. And equitable distribution among the schools would be, and then have the money just a certain amount follow the students. My wife Katie and I chose to send our 3 boys to Catholic school, and they did very well. I was on the school board. We did a lot with very little money, and when our kids, we chose then to let our kids go to Washington High School because the kids from St. Mary's Assumption that went to Washington High School did fantastic. My kids graduated at or near the top of their class. And so you can do a lot with a little money. You just can't throw it into big, beautiful buildings and you have to put it in the classroom. Right now in Indiana, I think it's 60% of our budget is goes to 55. And then of that, only 60% of it makes it into the classroom. 58. So you know, it's kind of awkward out there. We need to get more dollars that are coming from the taxpayers into the classroom. But once again, equitable and equitable level. Thank you.
Years ago, some liberal senators tried to blame the educational problems in the South on the old schoolhouses that were kind of out of date. They spent millions on this because they always start out with a few million and then go from there. They found out that the most important thing was not the schoolhouse, it was the support the kids got at home. So they didn't like that, so they spent a few more million on another bunch of Harvard people, and they found out the same answer. The support from home won by far as to the educational achievement. Next to that was what actually happened in the classroom. It was a teacher and a willing student. And so often I think conservatives make the mistake of taking on the teacher. The teacher to me is at the heart of the system. In our business, if we wanted to wire this building, I wasn't important as a CEO. The wireman was important. So who is there in the classroom? The teacher. And since 40% plus of our educational dollars in Indiana go outside the classroom, there's many, many places to save money without taking on the teacher. The other thing is a lot of studies have proven that within limits, the size of the class does not affect the outcome. That sometimes we don't like that, but I've read it, I've studied it, and it's true. So therefore, we can also do more in that regard. But I don't think it's conservatives. It's your job. Take on the person who stands in the classroom at the heart of the educational process. Take on the people who aren't in the classroom, where we spend over 40% of our money.